The first person, though, who I want to talk to is Deirdre Glenn from Enterprise Ireland, where she is the Director of Life Sciences. Deirdre, tell us a little bit of what you're hoping to achieve on today's event.
Well, I suppose, Matt, a couple of things. I mean, first of all, this is a fantastic occasion for us in Enterprise Ireland to showcase the most innovative, high potential startups emerging from our research and clinical community, and to give them the opportunity to show the global world some of the most innovative solutions to problems that we're trying to solve around the world. I suppose it's also a great opportunity for investors, both here in Ireland and internationally, to see the commercial potential of these startups. And, you know, that's what we're here for. These startups are looking for funding.
Yeah, because that's a very important point, is that these, when I've seen, are great ideas, which will be very, very useful to society when they get implemented. But the important point from you as well is that they're investor ready, aren't they, at present?
Correct. Yeah, no, absolutely. So what you're going to see today is all of these candidates are seeking that first round of investment. You know, they're here and they're trying to show their value proposition, but they are seeking investors around the world. And it's certainly, the last 18 months has been quite challenging on the funding scene.
Yes, it's been challenging in so many ways for so many people. But for these type of companies, how difficult has it been for them to get money, but also perhaps to do the development work that they would have wanted?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I suppose, first of all, there's nothing like face-to-face, and the last 18 months has prevented that face-to-face. So if you're trying to convince somebody to invest in you, you want that rapport, you want that engagement. So where they may have had those relationships, you know, they were able to build on them. But if you're out seeking your first round of investment, yes, you can do it virtually, but, you know, it's much better if you have the opportunity to do it in person. So from a funding perspective, it has been challenging. And in terms of their technology development, of course, access for, particularly on the healthcare side, a lot of our companies want access to clinicians and access to hospitals. And again, as you know, that's been hugely, hugely challenging over the last 18 months.
And I suppose we are doing a virtual event here today, but again, anyone who is interested in investing in any of these companies can make their appointments and can get to do the face-to-face meetings after what they see today.
Yeah, absolutely. And thankfully, the world is starting to open back up. And with that, you know, we're putting a lot of supports in place to help our companies to travel where they can do so, but also to make that introduction between investors and strategic partners with these fantastic lineup of startups.
How important is it now for many of these companies? It's first round investment, isn't it? Effectively seed capital that a lot of what we're going to see today are looking for.
Yeah, so all of these, I would say, are on the cusp of commercialization. All of these HPSUs from research are just starting that investment journey, you know, and are here looking to get investment. And what we see is that, yeah, investment continues to come in Europe. We see a lot of VC investment in Europe, but I suppose, unfortunately, less than 10% is in that first round of investment, which is where a lot of our startups are. So today is a great opportunity to showcase the commercial potential and, I suppose, the track record of these disruptive deep tech companies. They might be high risk, but they're certainly high reward. And the stats say that, Matt.
Of course, we have a majority of the presentations today are going to be made by women. How important do you think is that for the development of the sector?
Hugely, hugely important. I mean, it's a topic of constant discussion, and it's something that's been core to what Enterprise Ireland has been looking at for a long time, that gender balance and getting more female-led entrepreneurs and female-led founders. And I'm delighted that 7 of the 12 pitches here today are females. But it is a challenging environment because, again, we see that investment into female founded startups in Europe is less than 3%.
Why is that?
A number of things, I suppose. First of all, there's an imbalance in the investment community, and I think that there's more. We're starting to see happen at Europe. There's initiatives going on to get more females involved in the investment community. And I suppose also for us with our females, it's helping them to understand the mindset of I suppose dare I say, the imbalance in gender and how they can put their best foot forward and I suppose be at the forefront versus a lot of these technologies that are male-led.
Yeah, but surely a good idea is a good idea, whether it comes from a man or comes from a woman.
a good idea is a good idea, and if it's an investable opportunity, it will be. But I suppose the problem is that the female founders and them having a voice at the table and being heard, it's certainly more of a struggle. And I think there's an onus on us as government agency and an onus on investors to really give women that time and that space to pitch.
Because it's not just about money as well. What about mentoring and guidance? How important is that as well?
Absolutely. Money is important and a lot of people can provide funding, but actually where we see the most important support is that peer-to-peer learning from the leaders that have gone ahead of you, that mentor support, that business and commercial support. And that's actually core to a lot of what we're doing with our HPSUs from research, is not only giving these candidates access to the funding to bring their idea to the market, but it's giving them access to business partners, to commercial promoters, to people that really can help them to overcome all of the sort of hurdles you will have with these deep tech startups.
There's a developing and perhaps worrying trend starting to develop across all of business of an unavailability of talent. It's becoming very difficult for many established companies to hire people and to retain people because of the options are available. What about for startup companies? How much of an issue is that?
Absolutely, and I'm sure you're going to hear today from our candidates, attracting and retaining talent. It's probably, I would say, the biggest challenge that we face, both for established and for startup companies. And again, I think and today's a great opportunity.
Why is that? Why do you think it is an issue at present?
Well, because I suppose there's such a skills gap, and there's a skills gap for sort of the technologies of the future. So those jobs of 5 years ago are no longer the jobs that we need, and you're going to see today the convergence of technology. Even in healthcare, what you're going to have is you can have somebody who's a great medical engineer, but do they know about advanced technology? Do they know about AI? And so it's the convergence of the skills and people having that and not being new to the area. That's something, it's a struggle to find those people. And now in the virtual environment, you can be based anywhere in the world and you can get a job anywhere in the world. You don't need to be physically there. So again, that means that the world is your oyster for a lot of these really, really highly skilled people. They can have jobs all over the world. So it's something we need to look at, and I suppose from an Enterprise Ireland perspective, as we develop our new strategy out, the skills agenda and attracting and retaining talent is a top priority for us.
Looking at the 12 companies that will be presenting here today, a couple of things jumped out at me. One is that they seem to be making products that are going to make people's lives better, and also that many of them are going to reduce the cost significantly for their customers. Are those the themes that you saw, or are there other ones as well?
No, absolutely. I mean, we've just come through, a global pandemic, and the future of healthcare and the market has been disrupted forever. So what you're seeing is those startups and companies that can actually keep people out of hospitals, keep people at home, that can manage people and actually prevent people from getting ill. They're the sort of the technologies of the future. But again, it's not purely about the medical devices. It's about artificial intelligence. It's about machine learning. It's about being able to make sure that people continue to be monitored in an environment that isn't necessarily a hospital environment. And that's what you're seeing coming through today. In addition to technologies, which is about encouraging and empowering employers to attract and retain their staff. So even though that's not a healthcare opportunity as such, it absolutely could be used within the healthcare environment.
But it's not all healthcare, and there are other products and services here being offered today as well, which are very strong about the whole idea of making things cheaper for customers.
Absolutely, and so, one of the companies that you're going to see here, it's all going to be about absolutely reducing the cost of broadcasting production, because again, we're moving to a virtual environment in terms of broadcasting, and particularly in terms of live events, and that's what the customer is looking for. They want the same product, but they want it at a cheaper cost where possible.
Okay, well, that's just one of the 12 that we'll be getting to in a little while. Deirdre, thank you very much for being with us, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.